I'm back with a vengeance, back on the mission, back how they thought I was back on the bench.
Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with Florida-born, Atlanta-based musician Ashton Martin. He grew up around music, and his grandmother, father, and aunt were all amazing singers and choirs. He began writing poetry at the age of 11, and that soon developed into rap. In 2018, he moved to Atlanta with $965 in his pockets and the dream to grow his music career, and to this day, he is still successfully doing that. He and his wife created Ashton Martin Entertainment in 2019 and stands out by having music relatable for everyone at all stages in life. Enjoy this interview.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, Joe Dimino, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Joseph?
Everything's good. Where are you located at?
I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, right on. Thanks for taking a minute out. I really appreciate it. And I want to start off everything with, as a musician, as a creative person, how did you do during COVID over these last couple of years? How did you make it through, and how did it change you?
I'll definitely say how I did. I think I did pretty well. But as a musician, of course, it's going to have an effect on you. You know, you definitely have those times where, especially if you're a musician that's used to being out and about, it's going to be a change for you, because at that time of period, like the world was totally different, and there was no shows literally going on. And I would definitely say it made me go into a different direction and focus more on online marketing. It definitely changed me in that sense. And even now to this day, I don't even go out as much. I don't perform out as much. But it's for the better, because it made me do everything more intentional when it comes to appearances. Instead of just jumping on any and everything that I can go out and be a part of, it made me be more selective. And I think it helps when bringing out people now, because they never know when they're going to see you. So anytime that you're a part of an event or you're having an event, it makes people want to like come out and be a part, because it's like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to see you again. So in that sense, yeah, I think it also helped me creatively too. It made, I think we all were kind of forced to look in the mirror and like really see who we truly are, or like, just kind of sit with your thoughts for a while. And it made me create some very introspective projects during that time. I think I released two. I think I released one EP and then one at the top of 2021, and both of them were very introspective, and I went through a different creative process with writing. So yeah, I think that's how it affected me personally.
So, are you originally from Atlanta?
No, I'm not. I've been here for about 4 years now. I'm originally from a small town called Mariana. It's in Florida, North Florida. We call it Panhandle, also known as the 850, which is the area code. So that's where I was born and raised at. And I also spent some time in Pensacola. I always say Pensacola is like my second home, because when I moved out of when I graduated high school, about a year out, that's where I moved to. So that's also where I did a lot of, as you can say, quote unquote, growing up. That's where I spent a lot of my like young adult years at.
So you grew up around music, and your grandmother, father, and aunt were all singers in the choir. So was it a foregone conclusion that you were going to get into music, or did you have any other dreams?
No, it wasn't. First I'll say they didn't expect me to do music. I don't think they even knew. They didn't know that I had anything to do with music until pretty later on. My grandmother kind of seen it early. Because of my writing, but she didn't know music specifically. She just knew I had a gift of writing, because I used to write poems. For me, early on, we kind of go through our different spells. I think every kid kind of has that, or what just seeing what's in front of you and what you actually have interest in. Where I grew up at, it's not a lot of resources, so what I saw was very limited. So I did a lot of figuring out around that time. I think in elementary, a marine biologist came to our school, and I was like, that's pretty cool. I think I could do that, So that was something I was thinking about, some type of scientist, because I've always been into like animals and interested in animals. And then as I got older, of course, I started playing sports. So, you kind of start thinking, well, maybe sports is the way. Maybe this could be my thing. But then it's like, you kind of see the work that you have to put in, and then like realizing like, is this something that I really love that much to put this much work into it, and even being that talented right off the bat, it was just like, nah, this is not it. And so when I started falling in with music, it really started as playful, like with freestyling. But then you kind of, I think I realized that I was actually pretty good at it. I was like, oh, this might be my thing. And then it's like all the older people that was around me, it was kind of like an acceptance thing as well. I didn't have any older siblings, but I had older cousins, and my friends had older brothers. So, you always want to be accepted, and that was like the one thing that they was like, that's, you kind of felt that acceptance from it because you had that talent for it. And so that's what really made me start leaning more into music. I didn't even realize the grassroots from it with being born around music until I actually went and experienced it for my own.
So what was the first really big show that you saw that inspired you, that made you think, I'd love to hop up and do that?
What's crazy? I've never been to a concert. I've never, up to this day, outside of myself, I've never been to a concert. That's still on my bucket list to definitely do. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a show, because I didn't see many performances growing up. I think it was more just hearing music. And kind of like watching music videos and things of that nature. In my era, we were kind of raised when YouTube was starting, so just also being on YouTube and watching different freestyle battles, watching different vlogs of artists, just their daily routine, their daily life. I couldn't put my finger on one. If I would put my finger on one thing, I would definitely say it's some people in my hometown that were like my brothers. I call him my brother. He's not my blood brother, but his older sibling. They did music, and to me, they were like the stars. So watching them growing up was kind of like the thing that made me like, oh, I think I can do this. I would like to do this. I'm seeing how they carry themselves, and I'm seeing how they're respected in the city. It was one of the things that I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I think I would like to do this.
So we're always swayed by really good art that we've gotten ourselves into. So for you, what was the album? What was the artist that really made you think, wow, this is the way music can be?
It's a couple. As I noted, people influences in my hometown before. My brother's brother was one for sure. But mainstream wise or like coming up, I definitely would say when I first heard Outkast. Of course, Outkast wasn't necessarily in my generation, so it was definitely something that I had to go back and listen to. I think it was just somehow or another I got my hands on the Outkast Aquemini CD. And when I first heard it, I was like, "This is amazing." I'm like, "Whoa!" I didn't even know rap could be done in that way. I always thought rap was a certain way because at that point in time, the East Coast, kind of the Upper East Coast, like New York, they kind of ran rap at that time period. And then hearing somebody that's from the Southern region, it made it more relatable to my story. So hearing that, I think that was one of the ones that changed it. I heard a Twista album very early on. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Kamikaze that was very influential. But it wasn't even just rap. There was some R&B albums that was very influential to me. The Earth Life's first album was very influential. And a couple I can't think of at the time. But I was the type of kid that was always heavy music. Like that was literally what my parents got me for holidays and birthdays. They would literally just buy me CDs. So every one of those CDs that I got at that time period was literally influential and played some type of part into my music DNA because I actually lived with the music.
So who would you consider heroes or mentors for you in your life? Someone or one or two people that have really made you who you are?
Yeah, so I always speak highly of my grandfather. I think he's like number one. He passed away in 2020. he's one person that was super influential in my life because I definitely say no matter what, he taught me so many wise things. I think one of the biggest things was if you're going to do something, give it your all, no matter what you do. And he used that in any instance. And, I always took that with me. And he was always such a relatable person. He was super cool, super cool. He was never like the strict grandfather. Don't get him wrong. Like, he had that. He wasn't a pushover, and he had his boundaries. But every lesson that he taught, he had a life lesson with it. Like, he had his own experiences. He gave it in that sense. He was very human-like. He never just said, don't do this just for the sake of not doing it. He'll give you like a instance of his life, what happened if he may have experienced this or went down something similar. Of course, we're generations apart. But, history repeats itself. So a lot of things that showed up in my generation, he had experienced something in some other form as well. And, he kind of related to me in that sense. So even though, I was the type of person, I love to experience stuff myself, which is also a detriment. It got me in a lot of trouble sometimes. But what he told me stuck with me because I didn't even have to experience certain things as much to recognize what they were when he was giving me wisdom about certain things. As soon as I seen it right off the bat, I knew exactly what it was. It was just me wanting to experience, even though I may have known better. It was just I just wanted to experience it for myself. But his sayings was one of the things that I say always stuck with me. And it was just his wisdom. It seemed like he knew something about everything, and to this day, I have no idea how he knew so much about so many different things. It seemed like he always was the one that he had the perfect advice for the moment, and it could be something so simple, but he always had that that advice, and his presence was also peaceful. And I get that a lot with people that surround me as well. They also say that I carry that same presence, where it's just like I don't even have to say nothing. It's just the presence that I bring. It's like a peacefulness, and I feel like that was his presence. Just being there, you just felt safe. You just felt peaceful. So he was definitely one of my heroes. And I'll definitely say my second one is kind of like a combination. It's a combination between my grandmother, my mother, and even my father. They all played big roles in who I am and my DNA, who I am even to this point today. And it's just in different ways. I feel like my father was a teacher, and he was like, he just had the gift of just being able to teach anything one time, and it just sticks with you. My mother was she was a source of strength, and I've witnessed what she went through. She was a single mother, and just seeing what she went through and continued on, it put that fuel in me, like never to give up, no matter what you're dealing with. And my grandmother, it's kind of like the same thing with her as well. She just had that strength and her boldness. My grandmother was like a small lady, a little lady, but she was so bold. She could make the biggest, fiercest man respect her, because she was always going to speak her mind no matter what, and she was going to say exactly how she felt. She was all about honesty. And even when you had something to say to her, if you come off honest and be upfront with her, she would respect you. You know what I'm saying? And I got that from her as well, just being honest with no matter what. That definitely helped me in my music because it taught me vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? And putting that in my records is just that honesty. It's a relatability when a listener hears it. So, yeah.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you like to talk to?
Anybody alive? Let's see. I think I would like to meet, and this is not a specific person, but I would like to meet one of the biggest labels execs. And it's just simply just to see what their thought process is, and just kind of see a view from their world. I probably wouldn't even say much. I would like just observe them. I would like to just see what their day-to-day is, because it's easy to say a big artist, but it's like a lot of the reasons why these artists are in front of you are because of the machine that runs behind them. And also, like, I would like to ask some questions as well. But I think it would be one of the record label execs. who I would like to actually meet, just to see, like, the type of person they are, and, like, I definitely want to observe them.
So what's been one of the best fan letters or responses you've gotten from one of your albums?
The best one to this date was in 2019. I released a project entitled Solid, and Solid was, very personal for me, because of what I was dealing with at the time. It was a very happy, but at the same time, very hard time for me. It was happy because this was my first, like, as you can say, momentum. I'm actually seeing momentum from something that I put out. I was traveling around the world, but then at the same time, I was homeless. So it was kind of like a lot of hard things I was dealing with personally, and I had to express it into this project. I had a fan that wrote me on Facebook. I barely knew this girl, and she said that the project touched her in such a way. I think she was, I don't know what her beliefs was. I'm pretty sure she was atheist, but she said that this was her first encounter with God just by hearing my music. And that right there is kind of like, that's deeper than I could be. It's kind of like I didn't even know how to respond, and I kind of backed away. It took me a while to respond to it. And that was just like the most prophetic and deepest thing somebody's ever said anything about my music. Because, you get the compliments of, like, just shorthanded, like, you're good, you're talented, this, that, third. But it's like almost like a grain of salt, because you get to a point where you realize, okay, I know I'm good, but what impact am I truly having? Those are my best, my favorite feedback that I get back. How did this make you feel? What did this do to you? Just you telling me that I'm good is kind of like, and it's not a cockiness. It's just that's not the purpose. I know I've put in enough work. It's kind of like you going to an NBA player and telling them you can shoot the ball pretty well, you can dribble the basketball pretty well, and they're gonna look at you crazy. Like, of course. Do you know how much I work on this? I get up from 6 a.m. and run drills until this, and then I'm in practice, and then it's the 10,000 hour mindset. You know how much work. Of course I can do this, but how am I affecting my team though? That's what means more to an NBA player. So that's kind of like the sense that I think about. How do I affect the people around me? How do I affect the listeners? So that's what I love to hear.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of yourself. Who do you think you are?
I think my perception has gotten a lot better about myself. If you would have asked me this a couple of years ago, I probably would have had a negative answer. But I think I'm a person that's resilient. I think I'm pretty intelligent, and I think I'm pretty gifted. I also think that I'm very sincere. Even having these gifts, these things, I'm always seeking correction. I'm a student. I think that's like my if you can, like, one word put me in a box, I would say I'm a student. I'm always learning from every experience, from everything that I do. So yeah, I think that's the word that's true.
I like it, man. Ashton, hey, thank you for opening up. Good luck with everything. It was great to get to know you, and I can't wait to put it out there.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for having me. And I do want to let you know that I'm a fan as well. I went through some of your work, and I love what you do, and I love the way you do it.
Oh, man,
thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, man.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.